So now I'm going to be talking to you about vaccination. So as I alluded to in my other video, I'm going to end a bit off on a tangent, as I do. I was talking about how girls over the age of 30 have recently been offered vaccination in the UK, but I have OCD and I have severe germ phobia and health anxiety, which is complicating the issue because I can't go to a vaccination centre. I wish I could. I really wish I could. It would make my life so much easier. But I have very severe germ phobia, very severe avoidance behaviour, and that is, like I say, germ phobia. I emphasise the germ phobia more than the OCD because although I do have OCD, I would say that the germ phobia is more severe. Obviously they are interlinked, but it's more, I would say it's more phobic anxiety that is the driver of most of my issues more than OCD per se. Yes, and health anxiety. Health anxiety, by the way, because I'm terrified about getting ill, and I worry a lot about my health, and that's all is linked to my fear of germs. But I'm scared about anything that could potentially go wrong. I'll be scared about it. I worry about it because, it's terrifying. Health anxiety, germs, death, disease, decay, all those things terrify me. Well, death doesn't terrify me actually. That's a funny thing. I'm not actually scared of death, but I am scared of disease and decay. So unfortunately I can't go to a vaccination centre because my body won't let me because of the extent of my anxiety, or I should say my brain won't let me. So I need a home visit. Now, I guess it's been made extra difficult because I also can't have the AstraZeneca vaccine because it was recently said that those under the age, younger women in particular, there was a slight risk, a very small risk, but it's still risk, of blood clots from this vaccine. And because I have health anxiety, I don't want to put anything into my body that is going to give me panic attacks and is going to make me extremely worried every time I might have a slight headache or something that I'm about to have a hemorrhage. Because I have health anxiety, that will basically result in weeks of vigilance, hypervigilance and panic attacks. I don't want to go through that. Even though logically I know the risk is really low, but also logically, because the likelihood of me catching COVID right now is close to zero because I'm not going out, hardly ever, obviously that is a risk that outweighs the risk of getting COVID. Now, if I was a healthcare worker or an elderly person, obviously the cost benefit would be in favour of AstraZeneca, but because the risk of getting COVID for me is so low right now, I don't want to introduce, no matter how small a risk, of getting a blood clot. So I'm not having the AstraZeneca. So obviously that means, and obviously recently the UK government, or the UK policymakers, whatever, withdrew AstraZeneca for the under 40s anyway. Withdraw is maybe the wrong word. They still will give AstraZeneca to those people under that age of 40. I think it's more like a recommendation that people under the age of 40 don't have it, as opposed to a strict withdrawal, because people under the age of 40 can still have it. It's not like a strict withdrawal, it's just like they recommend. And because obviously I'm very OCD, literal and everything, autism and everything, obviously anything particularly pertaining to health, where there's something that says it is recommended, I'm literal, I don't want it, because it's not recommended. That would be terrifying. It'd be like crossing a line, breaking a rule. I don't want to do that, it'll be terrifying. So I have no choice, mentally speaking, but to have the Pfizer vaccine, because that vaccine doesn't have such a risk of blood clots. It's mainly, and I'm not entirely sure why the AstraZeneca has this tiny risk of blood clots. I read somewhere it might be to do with the way it might be something to do with the vector, because they use another virus to carry the virus in, to carry the COVID virus in it or something, whereas Pfizer uses a different technology. I don't know. But anyway, at least with Pfizer I'm not going to have to spend weeks panicking over blood clots. Although I think all vaccines carry a small risk of blood clots, but it just seems that AstraZeneca seems to be more risky than the others. So, even though the risk is still obviously extremely low, but So I'm going to have Pfizer. Now, obviously, like I say, which has been agreed on at a doctor's surgery, but my dad has to spend a lot of time arguing my corner with them, and they do finally seem to have got it, which is good. But yeah, obviously it's more complicated because Pfizer needs a cold train and all of that. But I'm lucky now, I do live close to a doctor's surgery, so it's not like I live right out in the woods. So shouldn't be. But obviously it revolves a bit more in the way of planning and stuff. They've agreed to do it in a kitchen, and because of my OCD, obviously I wanted to have it in a garden, but that isn't possible because of hygiene, obviously, which I can understand. So it will have to be done inside in a kitchen, but I'll have the door wide open, which will reduce mostly a bit because ventilation. I'm not scared of the needle. When I was a child, I was terrified of needles. In actual fact, one of my earliest memories is probably when I was going for some booster vaccination. I don't know what vaccination it was. I would have been about, not a baby because I can remember it, I would have been about 3 or 4, but a very young child. I don't know what it might have been. One of the booster jabs you go for before you start school at the doctor's surgery, and I was screaming. I can remember it really well actually. I was screaming, this evil nurse was about to inject me. I was hiding. I was running around the room, like refusing to be injected, and she kept on trying to cajole me with sweets because I had loads of sweets in a bowl. Eventually, she got the needle into me, and I remember walking out. Yeah, but it was a horrible experience. But then I outgrew the fear of needles. Mid-childhood, I remember when I did a vaccination at school, when I was at primary school. I think it was measles, it might be the MMR, I can't remember. I think it was the MMR actually. Yeah, they did a vaccination campaign when I was at primary school. Yeah, I think it was that one. I think it was. I remember sitting on the lap. I think I had to sit on the teacher's lap in the when they were doing it, and it didn't seem as bad. And then afterwards, like, oh, actually, that isn't that bad. And then of course you got a sticker and a sweet. It'd be nice if they gave adult sweets when you have vaccinations. Again, I outgrew my fear of a needle because I realised it wasn't so bad after all. And when I had a few vaccinations at secondary school, I think the BCG was the one that really hurt. That was painful, but I survived it. I've never reacted to any vaccines. I've never had any adverse reactions beyond an achy arm, so I've been quite lucky in that respect. Some people really suffer after vaccinations, so hopefully I won't suffer with this one, because I haven't before, so probably won't. But yeah, I'm not scared of a needle. I mean, if they could do it remotely, like if they could shoot a needle, I don't know, like do it remotely. I wouldn't have any anxiety, I'm not scared of needles. I've had blood tests, they're more painful, but even blood tests, fine really. When you get older, it's not, you sort of lose these more primitive fears, but then you develop new fears. It's not the fear of a needle now, it's the OCD, because obviously they're going to have to come close to me. And I know it's as safe as it can be, like, they're all COVID tested and everything, and they'll be wearing masks, I'll be wearing a mask. They would have been vaccinated, because, the healthcare staff have to, don't they? It'd be a bit weird if they hadn't, because they're doing the vaccination. Actually, I want my dad to double check that, but I'm pretty certain they would have been, because, yeah. My dad's, like, corresponding with them on my behalf, like, because I've got because I'm OCD and autism, I've got, like, all these questions I need to be clarified, like the exact procedure and everything. So my dad, I need to send these questions to my dad because he's going to speak to him again on Monday. Where they're going to be doing a vaccination this month, but they're going to be given. Hopefully on Monday I'll actually get an exact date. My brother's also getting his vaccination done this month. So I feel a little bit of competition. So like, who's going to get it done first? Me or him? That's the other thing I wanted to talk about. But yeah, I am terrified, by the way. Not of the needle because I'm not scared of needles anymore. But it's the OCD. Someone coming that close to me. In a pandemic, that is really triggering. But the thing is, I've got no choice. I need to have this vaccination. Like, I need to have it. It's not something I can opt out of. In order to be able to start living again I need this vaccination. You know, if something were to happen, like say, I don't know, like as a boiler went or something, that's the other thing, I need to have my boiler looked at, I can't have that done until I've had my vaccination. But what I'm saying is, say if something happened like that, and I would go into complete meltdown because without a vaccination, I'd feel so vulnerable. So we just have, you know, you don't want any emergencies to happen, do you know what I mean? I need to have my vaccination in order for, you know, just to provide a level of security, if nothing else, even if it's not, I don't think it's going to be like straight away that I'm going to stop being able to go outside again. When I've had this extreme OCD for long enough now, it's going to take a really long time, but I can't even begin to think about getting out until I've had both vaccines, by the way. I mean, you know, I need both before I'm going to feel secure, particularly with this new variant on release. So we could be potentially talking two to 3 months before I can even start thinking about getting out, because you know you won't get your second one probably until September. Then you have to wait, it goes a couple of weeks for you to develop immunity. So yeah, we'll just have to see. That's the other thing though, vaccine FOMO, fear of missing out. As much as I'm dreading this vaccine, it also is bothering me seeing all these people in my age group getting it done, particularly those ones who've already had 2 doses. Like, I'm like, oh, it's not fair. Because they've got good protection, they can now go out and like not have to worry so much, even though they didn't have OCD in the first place. But I'm born with OCD and I'm like still stuck at home, and it's, yeah, as much as it's great that all these people are getting vaccinated and good on them, it's kind of it's annoying when you see these people saying, oh, I've had my second shot, particularly when they're like a similar age to you and of a similar health status. Like obviously you don't experience FOMO with people who are of a different age group or a different health status, but people who are like the same, basically similar age to you, you know, you sort of feel they're ahead of you, and it kind of makes me, it's developing massive FOMO. I wonder whether elderly people might have experienced that at the beginning when they got their jabs, like, particularly for them, it's not, for them it's like a life and death situation. Like obviously people my age aren't worrying about dying from this disease, because most people my age don't die from this disease, because there is the risk of long COVID. That's what terrifies me, by the way, not dying, but long COVID. And I don't want to mess up my health, and also I just don't like being ill. I hate being ill. It terrifies me. Just the very thought of being ill terrifies me, particularly with a pariah disease like this. But can't think what I was going to say. My mind's gone blank. But yeah, no, I was wondering whether elderly people at the start of the pandemic, whether or not they, not at the start of the pandemic, at the start of the vaccination, when they were getting vaccinated at the beginning, earlier this year and the end of last year, whether or not they might have experienced FOMO as well, but for them it would have been 10 times worse. Like imagine if you were like, say, I don't know, like say a 90-year-old person who, if they got COVID, there's a really high risk of them dying, and then they saw like their friends and neighbours getting a vaccine ahead of them, their FOMO must have been extreme, because for them it's like life and death situation, and you can imagine how they might have felt seeing their friends getting a protection ahead of them or whatever. So they must have experienced some degree of FOMO, but yeah, FOMO. Apparently it is a thing though. I googled it, fear of missing out on vaccines, and it is such. There is actually quite a few people who are experiencing like resentment, even anger, which is all normal. You don't need to feel bad about this, by the way, because these are actually quite normal human things to experience, by the way. So if any of you experience this, you do not, take it from me, you do not need to feel bad about it, because I'm sure there are lots of people experiencing it as well, but maybe people just don't talk about it because maybe they feel guilty or something. But like fear of missing out is kind of a universal human thing to have this feeling, because it's kind of it's a survival thing, isn't it? Like we're essentially animals and we want to survive, and particularly when there's something that could give you a greater chance of surviving in whatever way it might be, and then you're seeing other people getting ahead of you, that's going to trigger an animal envy, isn't it? Yeah, that's just a fact. So, so take it from me, you don't need to feel guilty if you're experiencing FOMO as well. I feel guilty. I'm saying this to you, but I still feel guilty myself, because you sort of feel you shouldn't be experiencing it, but you can't stop feeling something, you know. So yeah, FOMO. Particularly, like, I think, you know, it's because I see like people my own age already having received it, who essentially now have more protection than me, while I'm still cooped up waiting. But my time will come. I'm hoping it will be this month. Probably teenagers are going to be experiencing a hell of a lot of FOMO, because although teenagers don't get COVID badly, and like they generally get it mild in inverted commas, or at least they don't get it severe. They're going to be last in a queue for vaccination. And if you're like particularly if you're like a really, really anxious teenager, like say if you're 18 or 19 and you've got like OCD or something, that FOMO is going to be even more extreme. But yeah, FOMO is hard. So it's kind of like I'm terrified of the OCD involved in getting the vaccination, but at the same time, there's also the competing extreme FOMO, which is driving me to have it. So, and I need to start living again. So I'm getting fed up with this pandemic. But anyway, I'm going to stop talking now, and I'm going to upload these videos, and do let me know what you think. So thank you for watching.